Hello viewers, welcome to my orchid world. Today we are going to discuss how I repot my orchids. I have a collection of both species and hybrid orchids. Recently I have been focusing on collecting species orchids mainly. To decide whether to repot an orchid or not, we need to check our orchids for certain deciding factors. We will discuss about them, and we will also discuss how we should use the pots, what kind of pots we can use, what kind of media we need to use depending on the variety of the orchid, and we will discuss them, each of them. There are certain factors which we need to keep in mind while repotting orchids. We need to check out certain things about the media, the plant, if the plant was delivered to you right now or before. So let's start. The first factor which we need to check is the media. If the media is very degraded, decomposing, you should decide that you need to repot your orchid. If an orchid is potted for very long, say a few years in the same media, it might happen that the media may have got decomposed over the years. In such cases, we should repot the orchid without any delay. Decomposing media encourages the growth of pests and it will suffocate the roots, which will hamper the growth of the orchid in general. So whenever you see that there are algae in your media, then you should repot it immediately. Sometimes when a orchid is delivered to you and you see that the medium is not very suitable for orchids, like there may be concrete pieces or decomposed coconut fiber or chips, you might want to repot it immediately. The ideal thing to do will be to allow it to adjust to your environment for some time, because the orchid might have been growing in a different environment and your environment may be different from the previous one. So you need to give some time to the orchid to adjust to your environment and then repot it. Also, additionally, if the orchid has a spike or say buds, so what you can do is enjoy the blooms first and then you can repot your orchid. In cases when orchids are mounted on say wooden slabs or cork slabs, I do not recommend you to repot the orchid. There is absolutely no reason to unmount the orchid from the slab and repot it in a pot. Mounted orchids get enough space in their mounts to grow freely, and there is no obstruction in the path of the roots or the leaves to expand. Over a period of time, your orchid may take up all the space on the mount. In such cases, what you can do is you can just attach another bigger slab with your orchid and let the orchid grow on the new slab. So absolutely, I always recommend that mounted option is the best for your orchids. You do not need to repot them from your slabs. It will grow nicely, it will grow give you nice blooms, and so absolutely there is no reason, no need to unmount them from the mounts and repot it say in a pot. In case of dendrobiums, you will have nodal keikis and also basal keikis. To repot these keikis, wait for them to grow at least 6 to 7 set of leaves and a nice root system. Leave the basal keikis with the mother plant, because what happens is that canes that bloom once are not going to bloom again. So what happens is that if you repot all the keikis from the mother plant, over a period of time, the mother plant will be left with no new canes and there will be no blooms. In case of vandas that also produce keikis, you can do the same. Certain species also tend to produce multiple keikis. In that case, what you can do is you can remove the keikis once they have a very nice root system. Then you can remove them from the mother plant at that time they are able to survive on their own without the mother plant. So let them grow a nice set of leaves and nice root system, and then you can repot them. Also, it is up to you to leave all the keikis with the mother plant, which will make it a nice bushier plant. So it is totally up to you. When you buy a new orchid, allow it to acclimatize at your environment for some time. This may take from 1 to 2 months or even more than that. Just wait for new shoots to grow and the roots to develop. Keep watering the orchid thoroughly during this period. Once you see new shoots growing from the base, say in case of cattleyas, then and you will see new roots coming up. So at that time you can repot the orchid. Now, new shoots and new roots indicate that the repotting will not set back the orchid, because it has new roots to take up water and minerals, even if certain roots get damaged in the process of repotting. It's not 100% that you will be able to save all the roots while repotting, but yes, we should try to minimize the damage the roots, so as to not to set back the orchid. Orchids like this over a period of time may become bushier, may become out of the pot, and in that case what you can do is you can divide the orchid. In case of cattleyas, you can divide it and repot separately. Orchids that are mounted on trees absolutely do not need repotting at all. Mounted orchids on trees is the best method of growing orchids, as I always emphasize. They get plenty of space to grow their shoots, their canes, their leaves, and grow more number of keikis and canes every year. This means that more number of blooms every year, and so your orchid puts up a nice show when there are multiple spikes, multiple blooms, which goes on increasing when you mount them on trees. You can mount basically any type of orchid on any tree, any orchid, because orchids in nature grow as epiphytes, that is, they grow on other big trees where they can use the roots to hang clung to the trees, and which gives them support to bear the weight of the orchid. And so there are a multiple number of shoots developing every year. So this is the best method to grow your orchids, and absolutely there is no need to repot your orchids if the orchid is mounted on a tree. While choosing a tree to mount an orchid, what you can do is you just choose a tree. Basically you can mount it on any tree, but always choose a tree where the stem is very rugged, very rough, so that roots get crevices to hang to the tree. So to repot an orchid which has been growing in the pot, say for 2 to 3 years, and the roots are growing out of the pot, what you can do is you need to soak them for say 30 minutes to say 1 hour, because what happens is that the roots will get attached to the pot where they have been growing, and it will be very difficult, and there are chances that you may damage the roots, every root which you will try to remove from the pot. So soaking them in water for 30 minutes will help the roots to soak up water and become flexible, and it will be very easy. You will experience it yourself. It will be easy for you to remove the roots from the pots. In the process you will damage some roots, which is unavoidable. My orchids stay outside in the shade house, and they have to bear all type of weather conditions like high temperature, low temperature, rain, wind, and other types of weather conditions. hence my pots generally do not last very long. So if I have to decide between saving a root and a pot, I will always choose the root, because the pots, when they sit outside for say 1 to 2 years, they generally become very brittle. So I will generally sacrifice the pot. So today we together will repot these orchids, which you can see on the screen. One is the Cattleya golden peacock. It has nice new shoots, new root system which have grown. The another one is Phalaenopsis type dendrobium, where the media is fully decomposed. Another one is the dendrobium farmeri, which I recently bought. It had a spike which has bloomed already. The media was not very favorable. There are concrete pieces, decomposed fiber pieces, which I am going to remove now. So let us repot it. So we'll remove the media and then come back. I'll also discuss about the pots. These are the pots which I am going to use. These are store-bought pots. There are slits at the bottom. One is a bigger size, other one is a bit smaller. Additional holes have been made by me for extra ventilation. We will also use certain media which are easily available. So to repot the orchid, first remove it from the pot. After soaking, your orchid will become very flexible. So just gently squeeze it from all sides. It will not be very difficult to remove the orchid from the pot. You will have roots that get intertwined through the slits, so we need to remove them carefully. Try not to damage roots as far as possible, but when you have a root very intertwined, just cut the pot in that place, or if it's possible, remove it with your hand. So there are roots below which have gone through the slits multiple number of times, so it is a bit difficult, but I don't think it will be that difficult. So it will easily come out because the roots have become flexible as I have soaked them in water. So let us see. Yeah, it has come out. So you can see how decomposed the media is. It's fully black, full of algae. It was potted about 2 years ago. What I'll do is just remove it, and now you can see all the 3 orchids. The roots are cleaned. This is the one that came potted in coconut fiber, which is not very favorable for me. I just actually don't like it because it becomes hard for me to save my roots. Nevertheless, this is the Phalaenopsis dendrobium, where media was fully decomposed. You can see the clean roots. The farmeri, it was not very difficult. You can see the roots growing upward because it might have been potted for very long. It was growing upward because it was not getting space. There is a small new shoot growing. So we'll first pot the Phalaenopsis type dendrobium. The dendrobium orchid likes to be potted in very compact media. So I'll use a few pieces of charcoal, few bark pieces, and a bit of sphagnum moss, because I have a job to do and I am very irregular in watering. Nevertheless, I try to water them daily in summer. So what I'll do is I'll use more sphagnum moss than required, because dendrobium orchids like to be potted in coarse media even though compact. So I'll use bark pieces and charcoal pieces as well as sphagnum moss alternately. At the beginning, once you repot your orchid might not be stable with the media. So what I do is, after potting, if the orchid is not stable, I use a few pieces of small pebbles to hold the orchid at place, because it is very necessary that your orchid should be stable in your pot so as to grow new roots and the shoots to grow properly. Once your orchid grows new roots, it will balance itself in the media, and then you can remove the pebbles. The pebbles are absolutely not necessary, just to make the orchid stable. I use these rocks. You can use other heavy things like brick pieces, or if you have media, you can balance it with the more bark pieces also. This is one of the orchid that is already potted. I will not fill the medium to the rim of the pot. I will pot the other two orchids as well with the same media, bark and charcoal pieces, and sphagnum moss. This sphagnum moss has been bought from the New Zealand islands, so it was cost me very it was very high, price was very high, but yeah, nevertheless it is absolutely not necessary to use only this media for your orchids. You can use anything that holds moisture. I also use coconut fiber, but the downside of coconut fiber is that it degrades very easily, so you need to remove it. You need to remove the decomposed fiber periodically, and keep on checking, because once media starts decomposing, it invites diseases and pests for your orchids, and which is not what we want for your orchids. So these are the three orchids that have been potted. They will go back to the shade house. I will continue to water them, and the roots, I hope the roots and the shoots grow nicely, and next year we'll be able to see nice blooms in all three of them. So this video was actually requested by one of my viewers, so thank you to this viewer. I made this video. Please do suggest if you want to see any specific video. I'll try to make one for you. You can see the pebbles that have been put just to balance the orchid. Other two did not need any pebbles because the pot was not very big. The farmery one is purely potted in charcoal and bark pieces. Few strands of sphagnum moss have been put. So I hope they grow well, and we will see if we'll keep on checking if there are any growth differences in all three of them. Hope you like the video. Thank you for watching.